Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session, Meet the Global Leader, episode 28. The objective of this session is to share the thoughts, beliefs, and expertise and life lessons of our guest, who is from another country rather than Bangladesh, to share the different mindsets with you. And we believe that you are going to learn something new and insightful from our guest. And today we have invited Yasmin. She is basically a founder of diverse young leaders. She is also a research assistant at the Future AI for EU Lab, and she is also a graduate as student at Technical University of Munich. And she is expert at AI ethics and regulation for emerging technology and youth leadership and accessibility to leadership. So today it's a combination of technology and leadership. So we believe that you're going to learn something insightful from this session. And also, School of Entrepreneurship Development, it's a non-profit organization with the vision of to upgrade living standard of people through sustainable economic development. So let's start our session. Yasmin, thank you so much and welcome to our session.
Thank you so much for having me.
And also, we have Samira with us. She is our host, management trainee of marketing of SCD. So she is going to host the intersession. So, yeah, we can start now.
Good evening, Ms. Yasmin Aldouri. We feel honored and delighted that such a magnificent person and devoted activist like you has agreed to grace our show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm really happy to have this conversation. I think we'll have an interesting talk today.
Wonderful. Please enlighten our audience a bit with your beautiful homeland, Germany and Munich.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Germany. I was born in Bonn, grew up there, have my whole family there, and moved to Munich for my graduate studies. Munich is a beautiful city, obviously. There's not only Oktoberfest, as everyone knows, but there's way more history and even culture in the city. So I'm really happy that I'm actually doing my graduate studies here. But yeah, I'm basically focusing on technology and politics, which sounds a little bit weird, but it's basically an interdisciplinary field where politics meets technology and the thoughts of, okay, how can we, for example, regulate emerging technologies? What kind of impacts will technologies have on society? How are we going to deal with that? Many questions such as, the future of work. How are we going to change the workforce? Are we at some point going to introduce more robots? What are we going to do with the people who are going to lose their jobs because of it? And there are so many questions in that field that I'm focusing on. So yeah, I'm really happy that I'm hopefully soon finishing this master's program.
Awesome. You are currently pursuing Masters in Politics and Technology at the Technical University Munich. How's your experience at the university so far?
I have to say, at first, I really wanted to study abroad. I did some of my bachelor's for my undergrad time in Michigan, and I really liked my time there. And I thought, okay, for my master's degree, I really want to either study in the US or in Canada or in the UK. And then COVID hit, and I didn't quite know what to do. Plus, I'm a first generation German and a first generation academic. So my parents aren't actually born in Germany, but they were born in Morocco and Iraq. So it was quite harder for me to get the funding to actually study abroad. So I decided to go to Munich, the only university I actually applied to in Germany, and that took me in. So at first I wasn't really sure if this is exactly what I wanted to do, simply because it's so interdisciplinary and most other graduate programs are very focused on one topic. So in the social sciences, you would have, for example, focusing on public policy, public administration, and then during your studies, you would focus yourself on one sector. While in this program that I'm in, you already have the focus set. You already know, okay, it's something in between politics and technology, but it's still offering you a huge opportunity to find different sectors as well. And this is actually something I really, really like. So in the past 1.5 years now that I've been studying, I've learned a lot, very, very much a lot. And this is something I'm really, really happy about, because sometimes when you study, you sometimes have the feeling, am I really learning much, or am I just studying so I can get the degree? But with this program, I really had the feeling that yeah, furthering my knowledge, but also pushing myself more. And this is something I'm really enjoying and really happy about, actually.
Great. Have you been involved in any extracurricular activities during your undergraduate studies?
So I've been always engaged in some kind of form, being in high school or undergraduate studies or even now. But it really took a turn 2 years ago, when I decided to actually become a founder myself and actually build something myself. And this is how Diverse Young Leaders was basically created. So the idea came after years of being engaged in youth leadership, doing different projects with different organizations, and mostly being involved in Germany, and kind of having the feeling, whenever I'm in those spaces, I feel like I'm not heard, and I feel like my experiences in Germany are not taken as serious. So it's hard to describe it, but Diverse Young Leaders basically was established out of the necessity of having your own space where you feel, yeah, in some kind of way, yeah, safe, and where you're able to talk about your issues and your problems and experiences without necessarily being judged or being called a drama queen or, oh, you're dramatizing everything.
What were the skills that you developed by doing those activities?
Varies very much, I have to say. So at some point, I feel like I've learned way more project management. So how do you build a project? How do you plan it? What are the financial stakes? How can you get fundraising? So the typical thing that you have in project management, those skills, definitely something that you just, that comes naturally with building something. But the other aspect, sometimes when you start such engagements, you have to learn your skills yourself, and that includes, for example, creating a website. So this is something I had to, learn myself and teach myself. So digital skills from all kinds of ways, from building a website to Excel to using, I don't know, tools to get a video together. So all these kinds of little things that you think are not that important, those are skills that you will actually gain from engaging in so many projects and, yeah, youth leadership.
Very insightful, truly. The career choices you made in the early stage of your life, do you think they have led you to where you are now?
Yeah, 100%. Um, I would even say that the failures of my past have led me to where I'm at today. I'm not a big fan of, celebrating your successes is always really, really good. And you should do that because it's important to do that and to acknowledge your successes as well. But it's also important to acknowledge your failures, and yeah, your rejections that you get. So I always say I'm really happy about, for example, the master's program that I'm doing, but I was led to that master's programs because of rejections and because of circumstance that just happened. And today I'm happy because I know this is what I want to do. So wherever you're in life at, you just have to keep in mind that your failures and your rejections will actually open up other doors for you. Even if at first you're really thinking, oh, this is actually really what I want to do. I only want to go this way. There are many ways to Rome, or many ways lead to Rome. And it's okay to fall, but you just have to get up and like learn something from it and continue on. And this is, once you do that, I'm not worried at all about your success and your way of finding success.
Splendid. You are human beings, and we all make mistakes that improve us to become a better version of ourselves. Will you kindly share with us which career mistake or mistakes has given you the biggest lesson?
As I said, like mistakes, I would never call something I did wrong a mistake. I would always call it a learning lesson, because it just sounds really really wrong. Because I remember in my high school, in my high school days, I really wanted to do a year abroad, and to do it, I needed scholarship and tried to find funding. And I remember I messaged a German corporation, sent them a letter to the CEO, and I sent that to that specific corporation because they were a sponsor of my school. And I told them, hey, I would really like to go to the West for a year. Is there a possibility we could arrange a scholarship? And in turn, I would, for example, blog for you or do something. And I remember my former school director did not like that at all. She was really, really angry with me, and we had to talk about this. And um, at that point, I really thought that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. But today, I would say it's something that I learned from. And the learning for me was that at some kind of situations, you have to think about whether your actions are valid in that area or not, or whether it's going to bring you to the goal that you have. So this kind of action I did back then when I was 14, maybe this could help me today with diverse young leaders in another sector, because people might be more open to it. But the context was different. So maybe this is like one example that could show you, okay, back then I thought it was a mistake, but today I think I could still, use that kind of action to get something out of someone in another sector. So it really depends on the context.
That's good to know. How much do you think the field of youth leadership have changed in the past 5 years in Germany and worldwide in terms of diversity and availability of opportunities? How much do you predict will change in the next 5 to 10 years?
So in the past, what we saw, I mean, diverse languages is 2 years old, so our impact that we had is very much local. And what we kind of saw, the difference that we made is that we did a lot of lobbying. And with lobbying, I mean, we talked to interest groups, we talked to organizations that offer youth leadership opportunities. We went around, had workshops with them, led workshops. And whenever we talked about that issue, most of the time, you can see that organizations know that they're not as accessible to minorities, especially in Germany. You see that. Most of them are aware of it, but they don't know how to change it. And one aspect that we mostly see is, youth leadership programs are always based in a bubble. So once you're part of that network and you're part of the bubble, you will actually hear of those opportunities. But if you're not part of them, you will be not included, but you will be excluded. So this is something that they never really understood. So if you have an opportunity and you share them and you only share them in your network, you will easily exclude so many young minorities. And this is something we're working on, and this is something we're basically trying to burst that bubble, right? So in the past 2 years, what we've been doing is lobbying, trying to do actually your own research. So we are trying to collect data and we're trying to have our own research out. So this can be used for further research by institutes or by even academics. And thank God we actually were able to push for more than in that. So we had several academics and several institutions reach out and actually ask us for our expertise in that field. So we see a change in that area. So academics are actually seeing, oh, there's a problem actually in youth leadership. Let's focus more on this and find scientific solutions to this. So this is something we're really proud of. The thing that we're predicting or that we're thinking of internationally, there will be more inclusion, because I think especially the global north understands that the issues that we're having are not going to be solved without including those who are most vulnerable to the issues that we have. For example, climate change or emerging technologies. So at some point, I do believe that Western countries, and especially those in the global North, will understand you have to include the global South and especially minorities into the entire debate. But I think it's going to be a huge fight on who's going to be able to talk, and it's going to be a huge debate on who's going to be included and who's not going to be included. That also means we're not only talking about minorities, but we're also talking like ethnic minorities, but we're also talking about people who don't have access to education. So is their opinion less worth just because they didn't go to university? So these are debates that we have to have, and I think in the next couple of years, actually, um, we will have these conversations, and we will have huge debates on who gets to talk and who gets to voice their opinions. So these are two aspects in youth leadership that I think are going to be major issues in the next couple of years.
Okay. Please enlighten us about your revolutionary diverse young leaders initiative, the idea behind it, and what you aspire to achieve through it.
So as I said, diversity leaders basically was created based on the thought of not being heard. And this is especially personal to me because, as I said, I was very engaged in high school and through university. And whenever I would, call something out and say, yo, this is really problematic, we have to talk about this, maybe we should not speak of certain people in that kind of way, I was always told, oh, you're just really dramatic, Yasmin. It's not that serious. And it was mostly people who are from majority society, so mostly white men who were telling me this, and even white women. And this is an issue because once this happens over and over and over again, you don't feel heard and you don't feel safe in that space anymore. And you're just like, yeah, okay, why should I engage in this project if y'all are telling me my voice is irrelevant or my opinion is irrelevant?
I agree.
So at that point, obviously, if you keep on dealing with that, you're just like, okay, I'm deuces, I'm out. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And this is actually what happened to me. So at some point in my undergrad studies, I said I don't care about engaging anymore. I don't want to do this. I will engage, but I will do that privately. I will like give tutoring lessons to like the people in my neighborhood. I would much rather do that than like get engaged in organizations again. And then I found out there were a lot of youth leadership opportunities that I've never heard of. And I thought, okay, if I've never heard of them and I'm already super organized, like how are other people even accessing these opportunities? So I had a couple of talks with other organizations, and that's when I finally realized, oh wow, these are like really, really exclusive rooms. And I tried to look up for, other organizations that actually deal with that kind of issues and that talk about, oh, like youth leadership is very exclusive and very wide, and very European centered and North American centered. And I couldn't find one organization, neither in Europe nor in Germany, and nor internationally actually at that point. So I said, okay, we have to change that. We need the platform where we talk about this specific issue. And that's how Diversity and Leaders was basically founded, with the idea of making youth leadership more inclusive and more accessible with opportunities. So based on that idea, we started different projects, from a youth leadership database that we offer, where you can find all youth leadership opportunities for Europe right now, but we're constantly trying to expand it. So we have some for Eastern Africa as well, North America as well, and we're trying to actually have a database in 2 years where all international opportunities are posted, so you can like go through them and find them, and they're accessible for free. So we don't want any money from you. The only thing that we want is for you to apply to those opportunities, so more people, especially minorities, get to be able to be heard. And for example, and most importantly, actually, getting a platform. So yeah, there are so many other projects that we're doing based on this idea. Um, But yeah, diversity young leaders is basically opening or trying to open up the youth leadership arena to those who are not as fortunate to be privileged to have these amazing networks.
That's great. Do you have any plan to expand your youth leadership activities beyond Germany or collaboration with similar groups or organizations around the world?
100%. So after we actually created Diverse Young Leaders, another group was formed in Holland, in the Netherlands, who call themselves Young Diverse Leaders, so a little bit different than us, but they do very, very similar work than we do, but with a focus on the Netherlands. We have also talked to colleagues in New Zealand, an organization called Multi-Ethnic Young Leaders, who focus on that as well. They have a focus on young professionals. There are also organizations in Canada that are doing the work that we do, but our focus is way more on younger people. So trying to get young people engaged as early as possible, so they can get the skills as early as possible. And yeah, we're currently working on having our first hub, so first diverse young leaders hub in Somalia, which will or basically was not announced yet officially, but we do have the group already, and we were hoping to, yeah, have them officially announce themselves if they want to by next month. But these are the first things that we're working on right now.
Excellent. Can you kindly suggest some important skills for young viewers out there who wish to become leaders in different platforms?
Get your digital skills on, honestly. Like, try, if you have access, if you have really stable access to internet, try and find free courses on any digital skill you can find. um, the one thing that will be really important, or that is already important right now, is having as many digital skills as possible and being really, really good at it. There are a lot of people who are saying don't code, it's not worth it, and blah blah blah. But I do believe that coding is super, super important, especially if you are trying to climb up the social ladder. It's one possibility to climb up the social ladder because there are not as many good coders out right there. If you getting these skills very, very early on, you can even like build on them. So digital skills generally are really, really important. And this doesn't only include coding, that also includes, yeah, like online marketing, that call the user design, um, website building. There are so many things that are so many skills that are so important in the digital world, and our world is becoming more digital by the day. It's important to not miss that kind of opportunity to skill yourself in that field.
Do you think is there anything we are living out here that needs to be addressed in the concurrent world in terms of gender or racial diversity or equality of opportunities or anything you feel important?
I think all of these aspects are important because, I mean, I live in Germany. I live in a very, very white culture, in a very, very white society. It's different than in Bangladesh. It's different as in Morocco. It's different than in Iraq. I was born and raised here, so I identify myself as a woman of color, and when I walk down the street, people see me as a woman of color. They don't necessarily see me as a German person. So my mom used to tell me this sentence, and she used to tell me this over and over and over again until it became a mantra. And she basically said, if you want to make it in life, you have to put in 3 times the work to get half as far as a typical white German person. So as a person of color in a European country, you always work harder. You always work more just to get half as far. And this mentality has something to do with the aspect that we are not necessarily seen as part of the majority society. So these racial inequalities are obviously there. We don't have to negate them. We know that they're there because we've been, dealing with them our whole lives. So obviously that aspect needs to be addressed. So as long as we're not addressing that issue, there's no point of like talking about other things, because the whole aspect of inequality lays on racial inequality. So we need to talk about that first. And then obviously, like, there are other issues like gender issues. And we have this kind of debate in intersectional feminism where we are talking about, feminism is one thing, but if you're a woman of color, if you're a black woman, if you're a Muslim woman, you experience not only sexism, but you also experience racism. In some cases, Islamophobia, and in some other cases, some other forms of discrimination. This also includes people who are non-binary and um, who see themselves as transgender. So these are issues that are very, very seen much in intersections. So these two aspects are obviously important to talk about. But this actually brings me to the point of opportunities. So we can open up opportunities for everyone. That's not an issue. That's what we're doing. We're basically trying to give access to information, access to opportunities by spreading the word, by using our networks and trying to tell them, hey, look at this opportunity, you should apply for it. That's one thing we're doing, and that's something so many other organizations are doing, but we're not seeing the change, and that's because we still have these issues. We still have these discriminatory issues within those organizations. So as long as we're not talking about the first part, which is racial inequality, gender inequality, there's no point of spreading the word of opportunities if we already know they're not going to take us. So as long as we're just sitting there and we're spreading the word, we might be able to give more people information on, oh, there's this opportunity, and there's this youth delegation that are searching for delegates. But if we apply for it in masses and we're not taken, how should we take this opportunity even serious if we know they're not going to take us? So this is one aspect that I've been personally dealing with for a long time, but I still do think it's important to apply, even if you think you're not going to get in. Because if, for example, people of color apply in masses, these organizations have no argument anymore to say, oh, we can't take any people of color in because they didn't apply. And this has been an argument for years. So many white-dominated organizations would say, we're trying to be more diverse, but we can't because there are not enough people who are applying who are people of color. So in order to change that narrative and to use that argument against these organizations, we have to apply in masses. We will know that a lot of people of us will not be taken in, but it's important to still apply so we have a counter argument and say, there are people who are applying, and there are people who are considering themselves people of color, and they do have the credentials that you need. So these aspects are really important to keep in mind when we have this discussion on youth opportunities.
That's great. Now I'd like to invite Mahmoud Bhaiya to read those comments it has.
No, I've been listening. It's amazing to see diversifying diversification in leadership is it's a very prospective future, and it's a dynamic field. And also, I would like to share with our audience, Yasmin, she has been named Young Global Changer among 50 Young Global Changer of 2022, right?
Right.
Great, congratulations. And why did why they chose you, and what was the reason behind it? If you share with us, it would be great.
So being one of the young global changers in 2022, so basically 50 young people around the world were chosen for this kind of honor. And honestly, I have no idea why they chose me. I'm going to be very honest. I think it's the fact that diversity and leaders maybe talked about one aspect of diversity that was neglected for so long, which is youth leadership. And I think that's just a new aspect that was thrown into the debate of diversity, because obviously diversity now is like a buzzword. Everyone wants to get into it, and make some kind of profit out of it. But the diversity aspect for us actually only means inclusion, and means inclusion from a very young age, because we don't necessarily believe in quotas. We have a lot of discussion on quotas right now in Europe, and a lot of people think it's necessary right now, but we kind of believe it wouldn't be necessary if you would already try and diversify youth leadership. If you would already include young people in the debate, then this quota wouldn't be necessary, because they're going to grow into becoming leaders themselves. So it's a long strategy that we have, but I think it's a really important one, and this aspect was never really discussed. So I think since Diversity and Leaders is kind of the first organization to push on this very much, this might be like an innovative approach, and I think that's why I might have been chosen. But if you have a look at the other 50 entrepreneurs and global changes that were named, you will see amazing people who are doing amazing work in so many different fields. There's so many young global changers from Africa, from Kenya, for example, and Ghana, who do amazing work when it comes to technology and when it comes to education. Um, and I feel like when I'm standing next to them, their accomplishments and the stuff that they do is so much more important than me complaining about not having inclusion in youth leadership in Europe. Not without saying that my work isn't important, but I'm just saying there are so many young people who are doing amazing work. And the Global Solutions Initiative is basically trying to honor these kind of young people, and I happen to be one of them.
Great. No, that's really great. And also, we'd like to discuss later on how we can introduce, like this your organization in Bangladesh. We can, like try to do something together. And like, as Germany is like highly tech savvy country. Like you are also working on like AI and ethics on regulations. There is one question. What do you think? Like technology advancement increase poverty in the society? How do you evaluate this statement?
Oh, that's a really good question. This is actually a question that I'm working on researching. I mean, obviously, technology will have a huge impact on society, and it will either decrease inequality by using it for the good, or it might actually increase inequality. So it really depends on how technology is used and what it's used for. You can have technology that is doing that is actually um, that was actually created with the purpose of doing something really good, and it ended up in the wrong hands, and it was used for something bad. And we saw this example for Cambridge Analytica as the best, really the best example for this kind of scenario, where technology that was actually aimed for something good was used to kind of, yeah, in some kind of way, influence elections, not only the Brexit election, but also the Trump election in 2016 and 2020, but mainly 2016. Where technology was used to influence voters. And I mean, this is not only illegal and fraudulent, but it's also going against democratic norms, no? So this kind of aspect, technology being used for the bad things, um, can not only be seen like in that kind of aspect, but some countries are already using it to control their citizens, to survey their citizens, to make sure they're doing the right thing in their kind of perspective. So in the next couple of years, we will have way more discussions on ethics. So questions on, okay, if I drive my Tesla and my Tesla is on autopilot mode, and for some reason I end up crashing and causing an accident, so who's responsible? Am I responsible for it? Is the autopilot responsible for it? Is Tesla responsible for it? Or is the coder responsible for it? So these are all kind of questions that we haven't resolved yet. And as technology is progressing and as it's developing very fast, we need to catch up with these questions before technology is brought onto the market that is, yeah, in some kind of way very dangerous for society. And you see some kind of countries already dealing with that. For example, the EU as a country bundle, if you can call it like that, as a country system. They're already working on finding ways to this problem.
Right. Yeah, it is still in trial and error stage, and people are experimenting on this. But the main part is, like new things, new concepts are coming, and people have to cope up with these to, like to survive and to be a part of this change. And I mean, it is a very insightful session. We are almost at the end of our session, and our time is short, and there's so many things to discuss regarding, like artificial intelligence and uh, diversity in leadership. It's a huge area. It will take like hours to share a lot of things, but we try to, like share the brief idea and your experiences and lessons with our audience. And so far, it is a great session. Thank you so much for sharing your lessons, your insightful ideas, and also so happy to see you being nominated, being awarded as 2022 Young Global Changer. We are so happy to have such a like impactful person like you, and we'd like to go far, do something together. With like School of Entrepreneurship Development, your organization, we'll find something to do as a team so that you can create change in our society, also in your society. You can exchange ideas.
No, thank you so much for having me, and I'm really happy to have had these conversations with you because I think it's really, really important to have these conversations. And yeah, thank you also for the congratulations. I'm really flattered.
Savita?
Thank you, and it has been a wonderful and so much insightful session. We are really glad that you have spread a great portion of your valuable time to talk with us and enlighten our audience. We wish the very best for your personal life as well as your magnificent diverse young leaders initiative. Thanks a lot, and we wish to share our stage with you again in near future.
Thankfully, hopefully, we'll see each other soon.
We hope so. And dear audience, we believe that you have enjoyed a lot and learned something new from our guest. And you see, the world is changing so fast. So to cope up with this changing environment and changing process, we should update ourselves. Like we should. It could be like iPhone 13, iPhone 14. There is a new version in every year. So we should also update ourselves. And Yasmin, wish you very best of luck, and thank you so much for your time and your insightful information to share with us. Thank you so much. We wish you very best of luck.
Thank you so much. Same for you guys.
Okay, have a good day.